Hello, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where talk is knowledge. And that guy next to me, you see him right over there? Is he that side? Yeah, he's that side. You know him from before. He is John Blackmon, CTO of Trivantis. And let's see what he's got to say today. He's always got something great to say. Here we go. And we are back. And as always, we've got the pleasure of having John Blackmon with us. I'm Rick Zanotti. And this is eLearnChat. And we're going to be live at DevLearn this October. It should be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing streaming live there for the 2 days that the expo's on. And hopefully we'll have John back on again then, too. So he has a magnet for cameras. I don't know what to say. But how you doing, John?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing really well. And I'm glad you could make it on today. We were scheduled for about a month ago, but we had a major tech glitch, and it had to do with actually bad cables. Cables go bad in sound, and it totally took us out. It was weird. It took a while to figure out it was cables. But
well, it's that technical stuff, you know.
Oh, gosh. I mean, there's a lot of cables back there, and every so often they just don't work the way they're supposed to. But so how have you been? What's new in the world of Trivantis?
A lot is new in the world of Trivantis. I'm sure people have all heard we're consolidating down in the South Florida area. We have, hiring a lot, growing a lot. We may be moving our headquarters down here. So a lot of product work going on. Things going on every avenue, new product work, a lot of things going on. So keep them busy.
John, I'm looking at your desk. It looks like, is that a headset?
That actually is a VR headset. I guess I forgot to keep that hidden out of view there. Yes, so one of the new things we're looking at, we're actually going to be rolling something out at DevLearn. So hopefully everybody stop by, but we're going to be rolling out some VR type products at DevLearn. I'm really not allowed to completely lay it out now, but it's going to be very, very interesting, VR for e-learning.
That's cool. That sounds really interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun field. So it's a whole new way to look at things, a fully immersive way to learn, and I think people will find that once you get immersed, you really, really retain and understand the information a lot better.
That's interesting. Well, that's wow. Now he's going to leave me hanging. You realize that? Now I'm going to be going, what the heck are they doing? So, all right, that's good. I can't wait to see it when we're there. Actually, you know what? We're going to be at DevLearn. Maybe you can come by and talk to us, or
I think
we'll come by with our roving camera. And you can maybe show it to us.
All right.
That'd be cool. That's kind of neat. Well, a lot of people don't realize that Lectora is HTML and HTML5 based. That you've been there from the beginning that way.
Yes. Yeah, we were never actually Flash based. We published HTML4 originally back in the day when HTML4 was new, and then have moved on since then.
Yeah, that's true, and it's pretty cool because you don't have to deal with a lot of the issues a lot of other vendors have with just connectivity to LMSs and everything else. It's usually pretty darn easy, and because you've got an API built into it with all the JavaScript calls and everything, it's nice. We've always enjoyed that part of Lectora. It just makes it easy.
I'm actually getting a lot of calls from customers who are not that familiar with our product, and they're saying, hey, we're going to be trying to move away from Flash. Tell us how we can stop your product from publishing. They thought our product was using Flash all along to publish, and we have to explain to them, hey, no worries, you're all set, good to go.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how people have deprecated Flash to the point of almost everybody hates it, and yet it was a pretty darn good environment for what it did?
Yeah. It had so many possibilities, but then there were so many holes, so many things wrong that it just couldn't stand on how big it had grown. It got too big for itself.
Well, mobile killed it.
Yeah.
Mobile and Apple.
Yeah.
Which is sort of funny. But, and a lot of people say that Apple beat Flash and hurt Adobe, but really Flash was Macromedia. And people forget that. It wasn't Adobe, it was Macromedia. Right. And then Adobe wanted it, so they sued, and basically Macromedia lost the suit and lost the company at that point too because they had no cash.
Right.
It's an interesting world we live in, I tell you.
Yeah.
So,
I actually have a copy, and it's somewhere over there. Flash was originally called Future Splash Animator.
That's right.
I actually I probably this could be worth something someday. I keep it around just in case, someday. But that is
I had that, but I
what
think
became Flash.
I had that too, and I think we lost the box. And that's funny. Yeah, Future Splash. It wasn't called that very long because Macromedia bought it within a year, I thought.
Right. That was the original version.
Yep.
Long ago.
And then Flash. Boy, it's changed. I'll never forget. I came into work one day, and one of our graphic artists was sitting there with his head down, going, "They broke it." They broke what? They just killed it. What are you talking about? Flash. It's been killed. I go, why was it killed? This is about 10 years ago, more. He goes, they have this thing now called ActionScript, and I don't get it. It's broken. And they did. They really kind of deprecated the software to be more script-based than it was for a while, graphic artist-based or animator-based. And then they went back to putting emphasis on animations and graphics, and that made a difference. But for a while, a lot of the graphic artists thought, it's over. We're done. It's gone.
They had to code. They couldn't do it.
They couldn't do the code. Oh, he was struggling. It's like, I go, look, all you have to do is say, stop. How? You type in stop where it says that action? So anyway, yeah, he was not a programmer. He didn't even want to get close to programming. But so interestingly enough, you guys, I know at the last Lectora user conference back in May, you showed some pretty cool stuff that you never talked about VR, by the way. I'm just going to remind you of that. So I don't remember you saying anything about VR. So that's, now I'm really curious.
I wasn't allowed to at the time, so I said, all right, I'll leave it alone.
I mean, you gave everything else out, but you didn't talk about VR, so that's going to be interesting. This should be really interesting. You're not one to keep secrets either, so this is cool.
I'm not very good at it at all. Yeah. No, but I've been trying really hard.
Yeah, but no, that's great. But you were talking about a lot of things that you're doing. That there was going to be a timeline in Lectora, which I think is cool when that comes out, and all sorts of other new features that were coming out or new things that were coming out now. Lectora 17 is currently out.
Yes.
Are we looking at 18 probably next year?
Yeah, so we're going to do it in a point release first at the end of this year, so a 17-point release, and that'll have some of the features that we talked about. It'll have the new internal browser.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So that we'll be able to support a lot more. We're looking at things like in Lectora Online. We're looking at having branch track involved there. We're actually even going a little farther and looking at things like a digital asset manager. So integrating that in with Lectora Online. What we found out is, once you get to something like Lectora Online, you're really dealing with a lot of the company's assets in other areas. And so we're integrating with existing digital asset managers so that you and your company can have all of your company's assets available and be able to just pull those in and out of Lectora and keep them up to date.
I was one of the ones who asked for that.
Yeah. And so look forward to it. We're working hard on it right now.
Yeah, that's probably one of the few things for us that stops us from using online the way we want to, because we have a lot of different clients. So it's hard for us to get all the assets correct in the same place. So this will be good. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Online's fun. For those who have used Lectora, if you haven't used online, half the time you don't know you're online. That's what I think is so incredible about it, that it really feels natural. It feels like you're almost on the desktop version.
We went through a lot of effort to recreate the ribbon look, the ribbon feel, and just so that people didn't feel like they were getting this huge change just to move online. So we gave it the same look and feel, works the same, menus are the same, that sort of stuff.
And it's fast.
Yeah, it's very snappy.
Yeah, the snappy part makes a big difference because a lot of online tools aren't all that fast. Sometimes they are, but this is a tool that's got a lot of stuff to it. It's not just fluff. So as a result, you did a good job on that one. It's just real quick. When we have used it, it's like, wow, we're on desktop. Right, we're not on desktop. Just have to do that one quick sanity check every so often to make sure we're not where we think we are. So,
I've done that before where I'm actually demoing a product and I demoed the wrong one. I go, oh wait, I'm doing Lectora Online. I was supposed to show you this one. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not hard to do, is it? No. And we've always talked about, you guys have a great team down there. I've always been very impressed with the work you guys put out and your team managers and everything. It's just a great team to work with. And just from personal experience, if you're out there watching and you haven't worked with the Trivantis team, I tell you, they're one of the best teams on earth. They're just good to work with, easy to work with, and when we have run into bugs, which aren't many, they're fixed pretty quickly. I mean, we've run into some bugs and you guys have fixed them literally within a day, and some of them weren't that easy. So always impressed with that.
They're usually never that easy.
No, I know. There's a lot of work to this stuff. Well, yeah, because you're a code generator. You're generating code, and most people who generate code, it's a much harder thing to do than just generate, a course that's already template based. No, this is different. You're generating everything.
It's almost a visual compiler. You can look at it that way.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's funny. I was talking just yesterday with some of the people here that in computer science classes today, they don't even learn what a compiler is. They don't learn how to use compilers, how to create compiled code, how to create a compiler. And I go, how do you do that? Especially computer science engineers. No. And some schools do, but a lot don't. It's just a quick degree, and hey, now I'm a programmer.
Well, they miss out on the low-level experience, and I think you miss out on a lot of basic understanding of the bits and the bytes of it. And so if you just start at the high level, you miss some of that, and then I think a lot's lost in translation at that point.
It is, because the foundation's not there.
Right.
And I remember I took one class in assembly, and I wasn't that good at it. It's so funny because actually assembly is an easy language. There's not much to it really, but it's complex in how you put it all together. And I was a higher level guy as far as programming went, and to me, assembly was difficult. And my wife was an assembly programmer for 25 years, and she goes, "It's easy."
So it was only a couple of statements.
Yeah, but I showed her what I do, and she goes, "That's so hard." It's all relative.
With assembly, it's about how far you break the program down too, because you have to break it down to its absolute simplest pieces. And so that's you get it down so far that it's just a push, a pop, a pull, that kind of thing.
Well, you remember when we had those green screen monitors back in the old days? That I did an assembly program that was part of a class thing I did, and we had to fill the whole screen. These are old CRTs, cathode ray tube monitors, green screen, and I did it in Fortran. I did it in Fortran first, and it took about 30 seconds to fill the whole screen with asterisks randomly. So we didn't even care if they were repeated. We just said, just keep going until everything's full. Then we had a little thing to check that make sure the whole screen was done. And then we did the same routine in assembly, and I hit the button, and it was totally covered. And I went, I must have a bug. That's the difference in speed with assembly, and a lot of people think like their phones and everything are all written in high level. It's mostly really low level code.
Low level code. A lot of it's on at the C level though. A lot of those use C on the firmware these days.
Yes, that's true. The embedded C.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting. Well, okay, sorry, audience. Well, let's bring it back to the learning side.
We were geeking for a little while there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You never know which way we're going to go.
Yeah, that's true. So, one of the things that you were talking about at the show was also the timeline thing. How to incorporate a timeline in Lectora. And what you showed looked really pretty cool because you didn't go timeline for everything. You made timeline for things that count.
Right. So it's a very different take on a timeline. So the idea is that you have a timeline for your page in general that handles your transitions and things like that. But then because Lectora isn't purely time-based, it's not slide-to-slide time-based.
It's event-based.
It's event-based.
Yep. And
so you can have an event play an audio, or you can have multiple videos or multiple audio tracks on a page, but you still might want to timeline those. So we have the ability to still use a timeline interface, but then have that timeline apply to each individual media element as well as the page. So you have multiple ways you can deal with it, and you can still deal with it with a timeline in an event-based world, which is it's a tough concept at first, but I think we've gotten it down to an area where it's quite usable.
Well, to me, it makes sense because event-based programming is really how the whole world is run right now. Most people don't know that, but it's all about events. Everything you do on your phone or on your desktop, it's all event-based. But time in an event is different. You can have time as a subset of an event, which is, I think, the way you're approaching it, which makes sense to me, rather than have it time-based, which is really a video metaphor. Animations and video do well with time, but not necessarily training. So it's just, to me, it's a different metaphor. And I've seen the problems some of the vendors have had who are timeline only based, where you run into the event issue.
Yeah, it really comes from the PowerPoint mentality of training. So when you have a single slide and you're just going to switch between slides, then a timeline works. Makes sense because there's just that one train going through. It could be completely passive. You're just watching it go, or perhaps a few things popping up. But we look at it as a much more complex thing where you're really trying to engage the user, and there's a lot more than that going on.
Yeah, that's true. So what do you see right now as some of the trends in the industry that are actually realistic, that they'll probably come to some sort of fruition? Because a lot of trends is just sort of out there, people thinking out loud. But the reality is most companies will never allow it or go for it because it might be too expensive or it might be something that they don't see a need for. But, for example, you were talking about VR. VR in the military is used extensively, a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably the pioneers of it all, even more than gaming. They've probably spent more on it than gaming. But you've also got a lot of gamification ideas, and they've gone and they haven't gone. It's sort of depending on what kind of training you're doing, it's either good or it's just not that good, and it is more expensive. No matter what you do, it's going to cost more because you're doing a lot more with it. And so that's been slow to really take off or have anything more exciting than, let's say, tic-tac-toe or Jeopardy. I've seen so many Jeopardy games, I'm almost tired of it.
I think 2018 is the year of metrics. People are really going to want to be tracking every metric you can possibly track because I think the value of it is becoming more apparent. That you can not only improve what see what the learners are learning, but you can improve your content by seeing how they're using your content.
Right.
And I see a lot more of that now coming on. I see a lot of use of XAPI and VR, of course. I see a lot of that going on. AR as well, augmented reality. So I've talked to a lot of companies that are now implementing small, not huge augmented reality, but very small things for, identifying, positions on racks and servers and things. I mean, have you worked with AR at all?
With augmented reality?
Yeah.
A little bit, not much.
Yeah, it's an up and coming. It surprised me how much people are using it. Several of our clients are beginning to roll it out in different areas. Usually for technicians in the field. So instead of carrying a manual, you get up to a rack that you've never seen before. You point your phone at it. It tells you everything about that rack because it can recognize the rack and overlay bits and pieces of information on that you can use.
I've been reading where it's being used in medical right now as well, where there are complex surgical procedures and they're doing some augmented reality to help either the nurses, the technicians, or the doctors understand exactly. Some of these techniques are very new and they're very revolutionary in terms of the way the doctor is not looking at the patient anymore. He's really looking at a monitor. And as a result, they have to think a little bit differently and they have to have much more practice. It's like, we need another Timmy. Oops, that didn't work. Timmy, give me another Timmy. So they're trying to minimize any possibilities of death or bleeding or anything else. But you're right, technicians, that's a perfect one. We've worked with utility companies in the past, and we really didn't have that ability to do augmented reality back then. But that would work because they go to a site, they're not quite sure, this is a meter I haven't seen before. What do I do with this? And
right, you can look through a manual, try to find the number on the thing.
Exactly.
Or just hold your phone up and let the phone figure out what it is, and then tell you, right? And then the manual's, click that, it'll take you to the manual, click that, it'll take you to a YouTube video, and click, all that will be there. So cool. But you use AI, some people will call it artificial intelligence, but it's really, it's just, recognizing that by its image.
Right. And it makes sense because you're tying all the different media components together. You're tying everything with that part so they can go after what they need. And that's pretty cool. Well, that brings us back to your VR thing. They're doing stuff with VR too, or I've seen some tests and mock-ups of stuff where they're using VR to put people in a simulated environment that could be technical, it could be medical, it could be one of many things. Could be a war exercise, but they actually get a lot more experience in being in that environment and using it. And from what people are saying, there's a biometric component to VR which is actually affected by the VR process, meaning you're not just in that environment, you are in that environment.
Right.
And they said that's where but of course you have to be careful. Some of those environments can really bring up adrenaline and everything else. And they said it's been very effective to simulate real world when it's done right.
Well, people have always said experiencing something is the best way to learn it. But a lot of times it's not possible necessarily to experience before you get that thing. So VR gives you that opportunity to go in and feel it and be there, and things look and sound the same as they do when you're actually there. And so you truly retain the information better and understand the information better, being immersed in the information.
Well, can you imagine what's going to happen in the future? You're going to go at Christmas and you're going to buy a gift for your little toddler who's only like 2 years old and has no idea what fire is or how much a range can burn you. So you buy the VR glove. So you go, here, Timmy, come over here. You see
Right.
what? You see what do you see in your goggles? I see an oven. Yeah, okay, now put your finger in it.
Who's this Timmy guy that he died on the operating table? He's burned his hand now.
That's right, but no real burn. But the thought will remain for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he'll remember.
But that's kind of the thing that would probably teach somebody without hurting them. Yeah. How many times have you told a kid, "Don't do that"? Okay.
Well, that's when they do it. Yeah,
that's exactly
absolutely.
when they do it. Yeah. Don't put your finger in that because you'll get shocked.
Right.
Yeah.
So the VR though I think is really where a lot of applicable learning will go. I mean, there's obviously always the case for your standard learning, but anytime there's something that you need to be in the situation or to really in the environment, VR makes such a difference, and that's what we found. I think a lot of companies are on the verge of going there. They need some tools to get there, and that's what we're looking at.
Also, I think it's part of that value proposition. How do they understand where the value is? And I think once they do, then they jump on it. If they don't, typical executives, if they don't get what the value is, it's not going to go anywhere. Once they start understanding the value, or the managers underneath them explain the values to them, then they're a little more open to saying, well, this could be really good. Let's say you own a hotel or something, and you want to do some VR training so that the people can actually, before they actually even get into a room or anything else, they know what to do with things. They know how to clean things, how to fix things. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of potential for this almost anywhere.
Well, Google did a study recently just for baristas, and they didn't mention the outlet, but I think we can probably guess who the baristas were working for. And they trained baristas on the machines, and they trained them in two ways. They did one group, and they used video training. So it's pretty standard training, video training on how to do it. And they took another group and did a full VR immersive course in how to work with the machines. And then they came back, and it was something like 150% better retention and use of the tool after they're done using the VR. I mean, it was just a huge leap in retention.
That is because even though e-learning is a bigger leap than just sitting in a classroom, I don't think we've met our duty to make it really more retentive. Because if you look at a lot of e-learning, it's so damn boring that nobody retains anything. They've turned off as much with e-learning as they have with ILT, with instructor-led training. And that's because the same people doing the ILT many times are creating the learning, and that if you're not exciting live, you're probably not going to be exciting on e-learning. And that's just a writing issue, I think, more than anything else, the creativity part. And then when you see really good e-learning, you just go, wow, that's great. And people do remember it.
Right, exactly. And it's the engagement factor. How engaged are you? How much did you enjoy it? How much were you entertained by it? I remember lines from movies from 20 years ago. It's because I was very entertained and engaged in that movie. And so the same will happen with e-learning. When you get something engaging and entertaining, you're going to remember it.
Yeah, it's true. I actually know a guy. He's an engineer, used to work at JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He was the systems integrator for the whole space platform project. Everything went through him. Everything had to integrate. But this is a guy that at a party was really sort of different. People would say, do you like Star Trek? Yes, which episode? Episode 4. And he will recite you the complete dialogue of any Star Trek episode. It's mind-boggling. It's Rain Man. It's very Rain Man-like, but he can do it. Yeah, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And
I think I've probably watched them all. I don't think I could remember each one.
I remember bits and pieces, but I mean, I think, so it's kind of interesting. I think there's a new Star Trek show that just came out. Discovery, I think. A brand new one. I don't watch much TV, but I was going, wow, another one. Soon we'll catch up to them. We'll actually meet them in real world. So,
right.
So my favorite one is Galaxy Quest. I don't know if you ever saw that. It's a satire on all the Star Treks and everything. It's a funny movie.
Great movie.
It's a funny movie. You know, altogether it's not great, but we get all the individual components. It's funny.
Yeah.
There's some good dialogue, good writing. So, and you know what, it comes down to that always, good writing. You know, if you can write something, make it exciting, make it interesting, and you have the right tools like Lectora, you can do quite a bit. You can have a lot of fun with the training. So, what else do you see besides the analytics part of it, the metrics part of it, which have been out there for a while? And I think, I would say in the 90s, late 90s, metrics were more important than they have been for the last 15 years. And then all of a sudden now it's coming back.
Yeah. Well, and metrics were always important, but you didn't see it as much in the e-learning world. So you your marketing department knows everything about everyone that's ever visited your website, and they know, where they came from, what pages they went through, what, path they took through their website, what they clicked on, and your finance department has visuals into all of your sales, and it knows all this information, and your e-learning department knows, oh, you scored 78. Oh, he scored 82, and that's all they know.
That's right.
And so, we're not able to derive value out of that. Now, okay, that's a metric, yes, but it's one metric, and it's really not helping anybody. So you can't learn a lot from that. So the idea is that, you use a lot of metrics, deep, rich with CMI5, XAPI, some standard, and you get a lot of metrics from what you're doing. Even, we referred to gamification before, but gamification is great. But it's great if you get it with a lot of metrics to go along. How are people using that? How engaged are they? Are they, spending a lot of time on this or spending a lot of time on that? Then gamification works in that case. You just need to know, you need to get more information from it on the back end. It's more than just playing games.
It's sort of interesting when he says 78, 98. It's like, I get to see people walking into a room. Okay, 78, come here. 92, you stay there. You know what you're doing. 65, you're on the edge. You're not going to make it. But I mean, that's it. That is what it is. Or checkoffs. Check.
Check. Right.
Yep. Did all my compliance. Check. Have you learned anything? No, but I checked it.
Yeah.
And my favorite ones are the self-checking. You read it and then check your course, and then you're now compliant.
Completed.
Yeah.
That's just completed, not completed.
Not
Did you complete it? Yep.
That's
okay, good to go.
Yep. No, we learned that back in the mid 90s when we was first doing e-learning courses, and LMSs were just starting to really come out. And it was so funny because within weeks it was no, we don't want a grade, just complete or incomplete. Because they figured out lawyers are looking for grades, and then they're looking for remediation, and then come the lawsuits. So
wow,
it's kind of scary sometimes, and it hasn't changed, and yet the companies are still flying by the seat of their pants, thinking that what they're doing is legally binding. It isn't. I mean, a lawyer would rip that to shreds, and they don't quite get it. They think they're like, there, we've complied. Check. And no. No, and these are big corporations with big legal staffs. I think they just think, well, we're big enough, we can handle it. We have money, but it's not going to help them if they do get sued. It's probably one of those. Okay, let's settle. That's probably what happens. But that's the legal part of e-learning. There's all sorts of legalities you have to be careful with.
Sad but true.
Yep. So you'll be at DevLearn. So we're looking forward to seeing you there. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to view that VR thing that you're doing. That sounds fun and exciting too. I'm always curious what comes out of your brain. There's always something interesting. So
you never know.
I really don't know.
Sometimes it's not good.
Yeah, that one kind of took me on left field. Like, wait a minute, I thought you were doing something else. And you're okay, got it. So.
Yeah, we'll have a new crew at DevLearn. It'll be myself and Daryl, and then a few new people there. And it should be exciting. We're setting up for it. Actually, kind of going crazy right now, working all the time, trying to get something ready for it. So
that sounds good. So you said Dara?
Daryl.
Oh, Daryl. As you said, Dara.
Yes,
who's Dara? Daryl. I thought Daryl changed his name to Dara. When did he do that? No. Daryl's great. We got to get him back on the show. He doesn't like being on camera, I think he just avoids it because he's great.
I don't know about that. I think he likes to be on camera and on stage. Those are his two most.
I'm going to invite him back on. I love Daryl. Daryl, when you see Daryl, give him a hug for me. He's a great guy. He really is. He knows his stuff, and he's fun to work with. So, well, John, hey, have a great rest of your week, which is almost over. Have a good next week. But we'll see you in about 3 weeks. Was it about 3.5 weeks at DevLearn?
3.5 weeks, yeah. 3.5
I'm
weeks.
looking forward to seeing you again over there. And drop
All
by
right.
if you do want to get interviewed. Just drop by and we'll talk a little bit about it, or bring your little headset with you and we'll talk about it.
All right. Bring
That'll
by,
be fun.
actually, come on by the booth, and because
We
we'll
will.
have plenty to show right there at the booth.
We will. We'll bring camera with us and we'll do like a mini interview right at the booth. That'll be fun.
Awesome.
All right, great. Well, hey, John, thanks again for coming on. And if you have any questions on what John does, we'll put those in the show notes, including how to get a hold of John and via the Trivantis website. So have a good one, everyone. We'll see you next week on eLearnChat. And John, you too. Have a great one. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.